Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa.
And welcome into the latest edition of Tider Insider Television, as you just heard, presented by Visit Tuscaloosa. Go to visittuscaloosa.com. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. And we got a lot to cover tonight, including Alabama football in the next segment. But we'll begin with Crimson Tide baseball. And the Tide starting off the SEC tournament in the proper fashion. Now, Rodney, it was disappointing, I'm not going to lie to you, that they had to play today. They were in position, we thought, to get a bye. They went 16-14 in the league, but that was ninth. So that meant they were the last team out of the bye. So they played today against number 16 seed Missouri, but they took care of business. It wasn't easy. It was a tight baseball game all the way. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the highlights from today. The Crimson Tide fell behind in this one. Missouri actually struck first in the fourth inning, courtesy of a solo shot from Mateo Serna to give the Tigers a 1-0 lead. But Alabama would answer back in the bottom of the fourth. Justin LeBron is going to drive in Brennan Norton with this base hit to make it 1-1. And then Cade Snell continued the rally with the very next at bat. Another single to score Bryce Fowler and give Alabama its first lead. And really, that's all Alabama would need because of great pitching from Tyler Fay. More on that in a moment. But Brady Neal added some insurance in the eighth. That's a blast. You know, Rod, it's hard to get a ball out of that ballpark.
It
you know
really
that.
is.
And he nailed that one. The catcher, the transfer from LSU, to make it 4-1. Then Carson Osmer came in and did his job. Missouri loaded the bases now. In the ninth, it got a little hairy, but Alabama gets the win 4-1. The Crimson Tide now moves on to play rival Tennessee, the number 8 seed, in the morning at 9:30 Central Time on the SEC Network. All right, let's get into a little bit of analysis, Rod, and it really starts and finishes with Tyler Fay, a guy who started out in the bullpen this year, then had kind of a start opportunity, parlayed that into being a first game starter in SEC series down the stretch. But today, the best pitching performance of his career. He went 6 innings, gave up 1 run, struck out a career high 6, and not only did Alabama get the win behind his great pitching on today, where they didn't actually, just kill it offensively, but he allowed them to have their pitching in good shape going forward tomorrow. Just an outstanding performance by Tyler Fay.
It really was. I mean, he was in control. That's really all you can say, Gary. In control for those 6 innings and gave them what they needed. And then Alabama obviously provided enough offensive punch to win this game. Now, Gary, we've talked about having to play that game this morning, but, in retrospect, I think it was pretty good. But rather than playing in the morning versus the heat in the afternoon, a lot better. I think now Alabama may be a little bit more fresh as they play Tennessee in the morning.
And, Ronnie, you're trying to get into position to host the regional. So if you'd lost today, it would have been terrible. Let's just be honest. You'd have been out really before the tournament got started. But by winning, that's an extra win on your resume. Yeah. And now you got a chance tomorrow to knock off Tennessee. So I think Alabama, in my opinion, has to win tomorrow to have an opportunity to host. But they can beat Tennessee. They lost the series to Tennessee in the regular season, 2-1. But this is a Tennessee team that, while they are the defending national champion, they struggled down the stretch. And Alabama's pitching is in good shape. And as you alluded to, getting to play today now might be an advantage. You've already played a 9:30 game. You get plenty of rest, and you go through the routine, the same routine tomorrow.
I think, again, the weather, you're fresh. I think, obviously you avoided a lot of the heat, which I think is really important. And look, we know Alabama can be very competitive with Tennessee. So, actually last year we saw what happened, and they did take 1 game in the series earlier this year. So I'm excited about Alabama's chances.
And when you look at this season overall, again, I mean, if they don't get to host the regional, a little bit disappointing because it looked like they were on their way with a fast start they got off to. But still, 40 wins for the first time since 2002 when Jim Wells was still the head coach here. 16-14 in the SEC, could have easily been better. Battling to host the regional, I think it's clear that Rob Vaughn and this program, the trajectory they're on is the right one.
I think it's been very clear. from the outset, really, the way he's come in and kind of turned the program around, the mindset, Gary. I think now when you look at Alabama, you see a team that I think the body language, the confidence that they play with, I think you can see those things.
And like we talked about last week, and I've been asked a lot, do you think this team is good enough to make it to Omaha? My answer is yes. I think they're good enough. Now, that doesn't mean they will. I mean, you got to go through a lot of really good teams, but I think there's enough talent on this team to make it. We know the drought is 26 years and counting, so maybe Alabama breaks through this year. All right, softball, getting to the World Series is just commonplace for Alabama softball. They went last year, and they are 2 wins away from going again. The Crimson Tide softball team hosted a regional for the 20th straight time this past weekend at the Rhodes House with Virginia Tech, Belmont, and Jackson State. And Alabama did what they often do. Not only do they host a regional, they win them without losing a game. They went 3-0 in the regional, having to beat a good Virginia Tech team twice. One of the top home run hitting teams in the country. And, Rodney, I know during the regular season, fans on your board get so frustrated with 21 losses and a losing record in the SEC. But let's just be honest. When they get in the postseason, and that's what it's all about, listen, Alabama's doing it again.
They are. Gary, we won a couple of tough games. One-run games against a really good squad. Virginia Tech, I mean, that's mental toughness right there, in my opinion. That's the way I see it, and I think that's what they bring once this tournament gets going. I mean, I think, whatever you want to say, Patrick Murphy has a way of getting his team ready at this point in the season.
And next up, it won't be easy, but you know what? I didn't think they'd win the Super Regional last year in Knoxville.
That's right.
That Tennessee team was highly favored. They go to Norman to play the Oklahoma Sooners, the 4-time defending national champions. But remember, Alabama beat Oklahoma 2 out of 3 here in Tuscaloosa. Right. I know the venue changes, but I guarantee you, this Alabama team believes they can go in there and win that series, right?
I mean, look, they should. They should be confident. I mean, Alabama has great tradition, too, and the experience that they had earlier this season when they played Oklahoma and they won that series, as you mentioned, after losing the first game, the way they bounced back. Look, you have to say Oklahoma, let's be honest. You go to Norman, it's going to be tough.
Oh, yeah, they're the favorite.
It's going to be a tremendous challenge for sure, but something that's not really insurmountable.
Yeah, and great TV for softball, that's for sure. And that series begins on Friday. All right, now it's time for Coach Talk. And making the Super Regional round is something that Alabama fans have just come to expect, maybe to the point that it's not appreciated the way it should be. Head coach Patrick Murphy, following the regional victory, said what Alabama has done in the postseason is something that maybe people don't appreciate it the way they should, because it's not as easy to do as Alabama makes it look.
Outside the program, this is a very difficult thing to do. And I think we've had 4 losses at home since 2005 in regional play. Think about that. We've been at home every single one. 20 years, 4 losses at home. So it's a credit to the fans, to our young ladies that defend the home turf. They play their best at home, and it's just it's an unbelievable stat.
And he really wanted to get an opportunity to point that out, and I don't blame him. Think about that again. In 20 years of hosting regionals, your fans have only seen you lose 4 games?
It's amazing.
Are you kidding me?
It's amazing.
It's incredible, that's for sure. All right, still to come on Tider Insider Television, former Alabama football coach Nick Saban on what his future role in college athletics could look like. Again, he talked about it today. And we'll take a dive into what Rodney says is a loaded Alabama freshman class. First full recruiting class for Kalen DeBoer and company. A lot of these guys could wind up helping out the Alabama team in 2025. We'll have that story, and we will be getting to your phone calls, emails, and even a tweet if you want to tweet us in just a little bit. That phone number is always 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Listen, there's been a lot of shows that have come on the air with the advent of the internet, but Tider Insider TV has been rocking your airways for 25 years, and we'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide right after this. And welcome back to Tider Insider Television, presented by Visit Tuscaloosa. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris, and we're heading into the summer, and I know a lot of folks are getting ready for vacation, but Alabama football is never too far away from your mind, is it? Even if you're laying at the beach. I know people laying at the beach talking Alabama football. Kalen DeBoer's first full signing class looks good on paper, but it's more than just looking good on paper. Rodney broke it down at TiderInsider.com, citing a source inside the football building that if spring football was any indication, we might have, quote, knocked it out of the park with this class, Rodney. 16 of Alabama's early enrollees, excluding punter Alex Asperoff and defensive end linebacker Cavante Henry, outside of them being hurt, everybody else that was here participating in spring drills, and you like what you saw.
Yeah, I did, and talking to people that saw it all the time. I mean, every practice and where it scrimmages, and these are multiple sources, Gary, that really impressed with this class. Of course, it starts with Keelan Russell. There you see Michael Carroll, the freshman offensive line, but it starts with Keelan Russell, obviously the 5-star quarterback, and he had a great spring. I mean, he's obviously a guy. When you look at him, number 12, he's a guy that you say, look, we're not going to rule out Austin Mack in the future, certainly. But this guy right here has incredible tools. He didn't disappoint anybody. Number 5 there, Dejon Lee, the corner. He's kind of what you would say maybe Russell was to the offense, Dejon was to the defense this spring in terms of just the rave of praise that he got. When you talk about a 6'4" corner, you don't find those very often, Gary, and he made a lot of plays. So those two guys kind of head the class on both sides of the ball. But you look offensively, you got Latsier Brooks is he is a dynamic receiver. I think both he and Derek Meadows, the other true freshman who's 6'6", he's 210 pounds, he's a guy that I feel like both of those guys actually have an opportunity to crack this rotation. It's a good rotation, there. So you look at that. You look on the offensive line. We mentioned Michael Carroll, but Jackson Lloyd is a guy who's probably your future left tackle. So those are two really good, outstanding prospects, and they've got a couple of others that they signed on the offensive line. A couple of really good tight ends. Marshall Pritchett, who got injured late in the spring, but I think he's a guy that's really good. And then Caleb Edwards, who's going to be here this summer. I think he's a guy, when you look at him, 6'6", 240, tremendous amount of ability. Several guys on defense besides Dejon Lee that we could mention. Obviously, a host of linebackers, 4 really good linebackers, and I think Ivan Taylor at safety. So tried to rattle off as many as we could in a limited amount of time, but it is a great-looking class on the hoof and some of the things they did this spring.
Yeah, let's be clear on this. One reason you felt the need to write this article is because, unlike even 10 years ago, when most of the time you brought freshmen in with the idea of developing them and getting them bigger, stronger, and faster, a few would play. We know Nick Saban would play freshmen, but you didn't feel pressure to play them. Now, you really do. First of all, you're paying them. Secondly, the transfer portal is out there. So the days of freshmen coming in and having to kind of wait their turn, those days are over. If they're good enough to play, there is not only a desire to get them on the field, there's almost a need to get them on the field because you don't know how long you're going to have them.
Yeah. I think that's very important. It's a great point, Gary. I mean, with the portal, you want to get guys in the game as much as possible. I think Alabama did that last year. I think they'll do it with this class, and I think a lot of these guys certainly are capable of contributing in a solid way, solid fashion, maybe even more so. So overall, I mean, anybody questioning can Kalen DeBoer recruit? Can he recruit in the South? Yeah, he can recruit in the South.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Now, you got to get the results on the field, but the thought process that he won't be able to recruit, that's not happening. And the great class coming already here and a great class coming in for next year as well. All right, let's stay with football. Former Crimson Tide head coach Nick Saban was back on the golf course today. He spends a lot of time there in the spring and the summer. Nick and Terry Saban hosted the annual Nick's Kids Golf Tournament at Old Overton Club in Vestavia. The tournament's goal is to raise money for Nick's Kids to distribute throughout the next year for different charities in the state of Alabama and the Southeast. There's Mark Ingram. He was there. Kalen DeBoer there. Nate Oates there. Current players, other former players were there supporting Coach Saban. And as he always does, he met with the media and was asked again about a sports commission, college sports commission. And he kind of doubled down, reiterated, whatever you want to call it, what he said last week. He says we don't need a commission on college sports. We just need some common sense changes.
You know, people go to college to create value for the future in terms of how they develop as people, students, graduation rate, as well as, having a balanced, competitive playing field. So if I can be a consultant to anyone who might be able to help the future of college athletics, I would be more than happy to do that.
All right, I want to get your reaction real quick because, again, this has gone from meeting with President Trump to being reported that he was going to be a co-chairman of a sports commission to we don't need a sports commission and I'm not interested in being a chairman. If somebody wants to pick my brain and I'll consult and give them some ideas. Is this ESPN behind this? Is he? This is a whole different line of thinking than what we were led to believe.
Yeah,
at least.
the vibe a couple of weeks ago was people were talking about, hey, Nick Saban's the commissioner of this group. Certainly one of the co-chairmen, and obviously he's now kind of backtracking on that.
You think the pushback you got in the media
might have been. I mean, you never know. I mean, again, I think that. Again, this is a different vibe we're getting from him. But with that said, I mean, he made it really clear he would not mind being a consultant to kind of, and I think he would do, obviously, a fantastic job. He's a guy that if you wanted somebody heading up that group, he would be the guy.
All right, still to come on TITV. The Alabama men and women track teams came back from Lexington with some serious hardware. Find out more when we come back. And up next, phone lines are wide open again this week. I understand it's late May, but we want to talk some Bama football, basketball, baseball, whatever's on your mind, softball. Go ahead and give us a call right now, 205-348-9882. We do have some emails that have come in. You can send us another one if you'd like, TITV@WVOA23.com. Let's hear from you, Tider Insider Nation, and we'll be back with more TITV right after this timeout. A good 3 days for Alabama track and field at the SEC Championships up in Lexington, Kentucky over the weekend. Samuel Agazi claimed the Tide's first SEC 400-meter gold medal on the men's side since fellow UA Olympian Karani James went back-to-back in 2010 and 2011. Also on Saturday, Doris Lemongold placed first in the women's 5,000 meter. Her time in the 5,000 meter was UA women's all-time second fastest in the event. The day before, she won her second consecutive steeplechase title. Also on day one, Victor Keprop earned his fourth consecutive SEC title in the 10,000 meters. He's the first student athlete in league history to win the 10,000 meters 4 years in a row. Alabama men placed third, which is outstanding after going second last year, and the Alabama women faced ninth in the team competition at the Outdoor Championships. And welcome back into TITV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Phone lines are wide open, 205-348-9882. We'd love to hear from you. Where are our callers at? But we are going to get to our email question of the day. It is always brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. When it comes to heating and air conditioning, KDM Service Corporation serves your family like our family. This is from Bill over in Columbus, Mississippi. Is Rob Vaughn a candidate for the Mississippi State job? Bill, you never know. I don't think so. I had, after we saw the email, I tried to look at some people that are being mentioned there. I don't think Rob Vaughn is going to be a candidate for the Mississippi State job. Obviously, if you're a coach and Mississippi State, with their history in baseball and that facility calls you, you're probably going to be interested. But, Rodney, I don't think right now that Rob Vaughn is one of the people that they're looking at. At least what I've been able to find out.
The good thing, though, Gary, is his name does keep coming up, among some schools. There's been some chatter about other schools that might make coaching changes, and his name keeps coming up. So that tells you, a lot of people have respect for the job he's doing. Yeah,
and I hope Alabama can hang on to him for a long time. Funny thing about Mississippi State, they fired a coach. Now they've been winning. So maybe that assistant over there, who's the interim coach, might get the job. All right. Let's get to another email question, and this is from Christopher in Tuscaloosa. Who is Alabama's best pass rusher? It's a good question. Rodney, who do you think?
Well, that's a really good question. LT Overton, there you see him. No, that was James Smith, actually, right there.
Yeah,
I thought that was 22.
Yeah.
Okay, so James Smith, he had a really big game against Michigan, I thought. But LT Overton, he had a lot of sacks that he kind of missed on last year. I think this year he gets those sacks. But they do have to find, whether it's Quay Russaw right there, they've got to find somebody that can consistently.
I'm sure we're going to see LT Overton here in just a moment. We'll just, because I would say probably you would start with LT Overton as probably the lead guy. But both Smith and Russaw both have big-time talent, too.
Yeah, they do. They really do. And I tell you what, maybe this is the year that Keon Keeley, now he's kind of becoming acclimated. That highly recruited linebacker, now he's moved to defensive end. He's getting acclimated to that new position. He's got a lot of talent.
Yeah, we know this. We said it last week. Got to get after the quarterback in this league. If you can't, I don't care how many defensive backs you're playing. They're going to complete passes on you. Pass rush is the best defense that there is in the passing game. All right, still to come on Tider Insider Television, Davis Riley, a former Crimson Tide golfer, has his best performance ever in a major championship at the PGA Championship. We'll take a look back, and we'll be getting to your phone calls, we hope. We'll get to another email or two if we have to as well. But love to hear from you. 205-348-9882 is the phone number. We're wide open on the phone lines if you want to give us a ring. We'll be back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV. The 2025 PGA Championship at Quail Hollow concluded on Sunday, and former Bama golfer Davis Riley had his highest finish ever in a major. Riley finished today tied for second at 6 under par, and at one point on Sunday, he fell down after a triple bogey on the front 9 on the par 5, but bounced back with 3 birdies. This gets him into the U.S. Open, probably will get an invitation to the Masters next year. He's a 2-time winner on tour, including this event coming up, the Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial. Will he be the defending champion? But for this second-place finish in a major, opens up all kinds of possibilities for him going forward. Congratulations to Davis. And I got David on the mind because we're back here on TITV, and we're going to go out on the phone lines and welcome in David from up in Northport. Hey, David.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Doing great.
When can we expect a release of a full basketball schedule for this year? And also, will the SEC use the spring meetings in Destin to form and release a full SEC schedule for next season, for the 26th season?
Okay, let's take that in 2 parts. First of all, yeah, because the 2025 football schedule's set. The only thing is we're waiting on time and television, so you know that. 2026, I don't know. Did they do that? I wish they were still. I can't remember if they did that last year or not. I don't know if they'll have a release for the 2026 yet. On the basketball side of things, Rodney, it's close. Again, when a formal announcement to be made for the SEC schedule, I don't know. But a lot of the games, especially the non-conference, are already set. So I would expect that in the very near future, David. Wish I could have helped you more. But did they do a?
I don't remember.
I know they do a schedule release for the season past the upcoming season, but I can't remember if it was built around the SEC meetings or not.
But now 2026, the interesting thing is the 9th game.
Yeah.
Potentially an SEC 9th game.
So that could be a little bit of a hold on that. All right, let's go over to Harvest, or up to Harvest, and talk to Rich. Hey, Rich. Okay, we're not going to get to Rich. Sorry about that, Rich. We'll be back after this.
One.
All right, we got up against the clock there a little bit, but Rich in Harvest was waiting he wanted to ask you in 10 seconds, Rodney, whether or not you think the running back room is going to be good.
Look, I think it's solid. Obviously, Jam Miller, Richard Young, but watch out for Daniel Hill. Yeah. I think he's a guy that can make a big impact.
All right, Rich, thanks for that call. Sorry we couldn't get to you on the air. That's going to do it for this edition of Tider Insider TV, presented by Visit Tuscaloosa. Don't forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can get the replay at 10:30 tonight after the news at 10, or online anytime at WVOA23.com. And just in case there's severe weather tonight, Richard Scott's here in the studio. We'll have coverage on WVOA23. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good night.